name is Amy Griffin from overallquilter.com, and today I want to show you what to do with panels to jazz them up a little bit by using the piping hot binding tool. But this time we're not going to put it on the binding, we're going to put it between the inner border and the outer border to create almost a T, but give it a spark to those two places. So with the panel, what I want to do is cut a 1/2 inch from the frames of the blocks. And to do this, I'm just going to take my ruler and find my 1/2 inch measurement and lay it right on that green frame. And as I do that, I'll cut and then I'll bring my panel down so that I can do the next part. And this is great for all those panels that you might find when you go to quilt shows and you're just not sure what to do with them. Sometimes it just takes a couple of borders and a little piping to pizzazz the panel and make a great, quick and easy gift for someone. So I'm going to do this all the way around the panel. You can cut that. When I get to, sometimes the panels are not printed exactly straight, so sometimes you have to just do a little fudging, but I think I can make that work right here. And remember to just go around the whole panel. And after this, I'm going to go ahead and get my borders cut out. I'm going to start with a 2 inch, and I am going to put a little piece of piping in between my second border and my outside border. I think I've got that all worked out. 2 inches all the way around. Okay, so I'll be right back. I'm going to go cut my borders out. So the idea is to put just a couple of borders to make the panel just a little bit bigger than what it is. But just adding the 2 borders doesn't really add anything to it. So at my local quilt shop, I picked up this Piping Hot Binding by Susan Cleveland. And it's basically adding a little bit of pizzazz to either your binding, or in this case I am going to be adding it right between those 2 borders just to pop the red from my outside border. So to do that, you need to figure out how much piping you're going to need. So just measure your panel, and this is going to be about 42 3/4 long, and it is, let's see how wide this is. It is 23 inches wide. So I've cut 4 inner strips, inner border strips, 2 inches by the width of the fabric. I have my piping fabric, which is 1.5 inches, and I have my outside border, which is 4.5 inches wide, again by width of the width of the, or the length, I'm sorry, the width of the fabric. And again, this is just strips that I'm cutting, and I'm going to remeasure every time I add my borders, just like you normally would when adding borders to a quilt. What I want to show you is a trick on putting the binding on. If you don't have a piping foot, what I want to show you is how to use your applique foot to get the same effect. So let's go ahead and go on to our sewing machine. So the trick here is to try and get the seam as close to the edge so that we can make that piping on the edge of your fabric. So we've taken, and this is actually a 1-inch strip, and pressed it in half, and we now have our cording inside, and I have folded my fabric again, wrong sides together. The cording is in there. And if you can zoom in on the foot, I am using an applique foot, and the neat thing about the applique foot is that it has a little red guide, and if you can use that to go along the edge of where the cording is, then your stitching will be right on the other side of the cording, and that's going to encase that cording. And my biggest hint on this is do not watch your needle going up and down. Make sure that your eye is focused on that little red guide so that you keep the edge right on the edge of that foot, or the edge of that red line. Again, we're not out here, we are right inside that foot. And again, I have also dropped my stitch to a 2.0. I like small stitches. And you're going to go all the way to the end of the strip. And you're going to do this 3 times. Your top and bottom you'll get out of 1 strip, but your sides you will definitely need 2 full lengths, which is 45 inches. So we're going to go ahead and do that all the way down to the end, and we'll be right back. So once you've sewn the cording into the fabric, it's time to trim it. Now the ruler has a 1/2 inch seam and a 1/4 inch, so you want to make sure that you're using the 1/4, and we're going to trim it down to a 1/4. And this is very important, and it's just as equally important that your seam on your sewing machine be exactly a 1/4 inch. Once you have trimmed all the way down, then you're ready to pin your piping to your outside border. So let's go to the ironing board and get that pinned. So I've pinned at both ends, and you can see that there's my back, my piping, and my outside border. And I've already sewn my sides. We're getting ready to sew the top and bottom now. When you start stitching, make sure that all your raw edges are even, and you can feel where that piping is. So make sure that when you are stitching, and if you can get close with the camera right here, here's my piping and here's my needle right in here. So it's going to catch it right on the edge, and again, that's just a 1/4 inch away. Take your time stitching. Keep your needle down and readjust yourself. And I'm always feeling for that 1/4, or for the piping rather, making sure that I do have a 1/4, but most importantly that I can feel that piping in there, so that when you turn it over, and I'm going to show you, when you turn that over, it's going to be right on the edge, and you're not going to see or you're not going to have anything but just the piping on there. And that's it. Just continue on until you've got all 4 sides completed. I hope you've enjoyed this. This is just another piping hot binding video, adding pizzazz to your panels.